Sergio Perez, Verstappen's teammate, has been up here to sort of explain to Adrian Newey exactly what was going on, and now the engineers are going down to look at the car. I'm sure they can change that anything
to it. It's a fair overtake.
Just a slight will make his way from where he was within that pit lane to go to the front, and the rest will then follow. It's a tough ask, but the more he can salvage today, the better off it might be later on in the season.
Yeah, he's a long way ahead of the pack there, is Lewis, but they'll come in to the pit lane to join at the back, as you predicted, Crofty, with the relative.
Michael Massey would have thought, look, it's dry enough for.
Yeah, it does. It would be a bit treacherous down there, I must admit. But no more than you would say normally get on a bit of a damp start on any other given day at a Grand Prix. Battery.
Oh, Max Verstappen, what's happened there? Just trying to light up his tyres somewhat on the entry into Ravazza, and a trip to the grass that wasn't part of the playbook. So,
ooh, that was a lucky one. Isn't he in second place there?
Isn't he just? Verstappen then ahead of Norris. Hamilton has managed to get past Kimi Räikkönen and is up into 8th place. Gap to Verstappen, 5 seconds. It was a lap. It was a good move to make for McLaren in terms of the restart. What he's got to try and do is hold on to those tyres until the end of this race. The medium compound runners will go towards the to the end of the race and will easily get to the checkered flag. Will the softs be able to make it? That's entirely up to Lando Norris and his bit on the Spaniard. The man who goes by, he loses more ground to Max Verstappen out in front. But for Hamilton, limiting damage here to try and get, if he can, to round about 6th place, maybe 5th, if he's on a proper charge. Would that be? And he has tumbled all the way down to 14th place. Poor afternoon for Sergio Perez. It continues to get worse. This is what happened.
He just got a little bit wide. Left rear tyre dipped on. Now get off down the road towards Daniel Ricciardo.
You can argue there that the DRS did exactly what it's designed to do, enable the car behind to arrive into the corner, into the braking zone, alongside the car ahead.
And then the driver's got to finish it off himself.
That's exactly what DRS is meant to do, and sometimes it works, and that won't help his progress much at all, as he finds himself now down in 14th.
Hamilton then on the charge.
He has halved the deficit between himself and Daniel Ricciardo in the space of 1 lap. As into the pits now comes Antonio Giovinazzi.
We have a problem on the brakes. We try to fix in pit stop position.
Adjustment made to the brakes. Picture, except Valtteri Bottas, who didn't look best pleased because he sat in the garage and not out on the racetrack.
You can see how easy it would be to throw the car off the road where the track's a little bit more damp, but with that kind of pace and overtaking under DRS, Lewis, it might still end up Verstappen versus cars.
Powered by AWS, a striking distance in 4 laps between Hamilton and Sainz, just 4/10 taken out of Sainz's advantage by Hamilton on that previous lap. And if the top 3 can stay the top 3 to the checkered flag here, we would have the youngest podium average age in Formula 1 history. The time deleted for track limits. You don't want to do it again, because then you start to get black and white flags, and it could really start to cost you. On board with Perez, we can see Sebastian Vettel dipping another rear right tyre into the gravel. Perez was running in the top 4 at the restart, down to 13th, but he's going to try and get past Vettel here, not quite. Into the chicane they go. Vettel dearly like to bring that under a second to get the advantage then of DRS. By the way, Pierre Gasly got ahead of Kimi Räikkönen. Ted was talking about Räikkönen. He was in the top 8, but no, Gasly, who was on the wrong tyres at the start of this race and went backwards faster than he was going forwards, he's starting to move back up the timing charts once again.
But and they actually rubbed tyres, look.
Yeah. A thorough examination given.
Lewis hasn't really closed into the back of the Ferraris quite as quickly as I thought he would.
No, Perez has finally got past Sebastian Vettel. 12th place is now his. So let's look at this battle here. Lando Norris, whose highest finish in a Grand Prix is 3rd. Charles Leclerc, race winner, and took I wonder, though, if that lap he might have used just a bit more of the energy recovery system. Lewis Hamilton, might he need a couple of laps just to recharge the battery? It looks like it alluded to.
Yeah, so to explain what I was talking about, so of course, because Leclerc's quite close to the back of Lando Norris, he's also getting the DRS there. It won't be such an easy move for Lewis, accepting...
Getting quite a few vibrations, I don't know what from.
Totally take back the last Ferrari podium finish. And of course, Sebastian Vettel was on the podium in Turkey, wasn't he? And that great squabble right at the end of that race as well.
Fine, they just want to stay ahead of the Ferrari.
Yuki Tsunoda ahead of the former Ferrari driver Sebastian Vettel, up into 13th. Other than that, places remaining pretty much as they are, but you expect that at Imola. Max Verstappen, who's not hugely far behind Kimi Räikkönen either. Either two of those four drivers could end up in the points. Now, the Ferrari has been impressive through the slower speed corners here at Imola this weekend. So slower speed corners we're getting to now. Rivazza 1 and Rivazza 2. There's not much
bags, but once again then, look at that. You have to say, Leclerc looks a little bit more than a second behind now, doesn't he?
He does. And I think, you know, without DRS for Leclerc, that obviously will help Lewis Hamilton. Let's see as we get to the line who's got the DRS this straight.
If Lando Norris is going to get passed, if he's going to get passed by the Ferrari, which by the Mercedes of Hamilton, it's highly likely. What you've got to make sure he does is not lose too much time in it. It's a tough call for him now. He's a racer, he'll fight for everything.
Looks like he's losing the time to Hamilton. Of course, it's the constructors' fight that McLaren are going to have, or expecting to have, with Ferrari. That's why they want to keep the Ferraris behind them, especially, and they're expecting, kind of constructors-wise, Mercedes to be ahead of them towards the end of the...
Piratella, and he got his lap time deleted, could have qualified third, but has put up a very good race here today, and there's a bumpy old ride for Gasly. And he's lost places as a result of that. No, 8th place for Pierre Gasly still.
Ambition well ahead of adhesion there.
Just a touch. Right, what's Hamilton's ambition? See how the gap closes to about 0.3 of a second when they get to the chicane, and by the time they start this straight, because it's so far, fingers crossed, from a British perspective, and that Lando Norris manages to, talking him over the bumps, skipping lightly over the bumps, Max Verstappen, who's never led the World Championship during his Formula One career. Well, today he has got the chance to draw level with Lewis Hamilton.
And the car has looked brilliant to drive as well. Yellow flag in sector 2.
So
the Mazepin is around that area.
Yeah, someone's had a bit of a moment. I
see him dropping back on the driver tracker.
It comes in front of me. And Lance Stroll dealing with that gearbox problem. I don't know whether he feels he could overtake Ricciardo, but those soft tyres starting to go off on Ricciardo's McLaren as well. Gasly feels he has extra pace if only he'd get past Stroll and Ricciardo, but he can't.
But he can't at the moment, and Stroll hanging on to that 7th place, which I think will...
He made hard work of it today, but I feel ended up where he really should have.
4th and a 5th place as well for Leclerc and Sainz.
Okay, much incredible hard driving, but Lando Norris, got to say, I was just going to say driver of the day.
Well, he's the man that should have been P3 in qualifying had he not had his lap times. Brilliant conditions to watch the Grand Prix today, as you say. Damp track that starts